The sound of the phone cut through the silence of my Charleston home like a knife. On the screen, the name Eric glowed. My heart filled with a familiar warmth, the pride of a mother seeing her only son about to start his own life. I smiled, imagining his excited voice on the other end of the line. Just a few minutes earlier, I had signed the check that would seal his future, $25,000. The weight of that number was nothing compared to the weight of the promise it carried. Eric's happiness. The pen was still warm in my hand, and in my mind, I could already see the scene. The Gadsden house, with its white columns and lantern-lit gardens filled with the sound of our family's laughter. 30 of our own, all gathered together. It was my gift, my blessing. I answered with a voice full of joy. Honey, I was just thinking about you. But the voice that answered me was not that of my excited son. It was a hesitant, heavy sound, as if each word was a stone he was forced to carry. Hi, Mom. Are you busy? The joy in my chest faltered, giving way to a knot of apprehension. Never for you, my son. I just settled the deposit for the venue. You two are going to love it. It's pure Charleston charm. I tried to keep my tone light, but the silence that followed was dense. A sigh came from the other end. Mom, about that. I need to tell you something. The knot in my throat tightened. The walls of my living room seemed to lean in closer, as if they too were holding their breath. Lauren, she's been thinking, he continued, his voice tense. She wants a smaller wedding. I sat up straighter in my chair, the cool leather against my back. His words echoed in my mind but made no sense. Smaller? After months of planning every detail to accommodate everyone? A smaller wedding, I repeated, trying to understand. Yeah, he said, and then came the words that broke something inside of me, something I could never fix. We're going to keep the wedding, just with her family. The air left my lungs. I felt the blood turn to ice in my veins. Just her family? I whispered in disbelief. The image of our family laughing in the garden shattered into 1,000 pieces. My sisters who held him as a baby, my cousins who drove across states for his graduations, all of them erased. 30 people, 30 parts of my life, of his life, discarded as if they were nothing. He tried to justify it, his voice almost an apology. She thinks it will be simpler, less complicated. So, could you just send the check, Mom? We'll take care of the rest. Send the check. The phrase hung in the air, an insult so profound it left me speechless. They didn't want my family. They didn't want my presence, but they wanted my money. They wanted me to pay for my own exclusion, for my own humiliation. My hand, which had trembled with joy before, now trembled with a cold, cutting rage. I looked at the envelope on the table, with the $25,000 check inside. My signature was there, dark against the cream paper. A promise, a blessing. But now it felt like a weapon pointed at my own heart. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice to come out steady. Eric, are you telling me that your entire family is not invited to your wedding? He hesitated, and in his hesitation, I had my answer. It's not like that, Mom. It's her big day. You understand, don't you? No, I didn't understand. And in that moment, I realized that the son I had raised was being lost before my very eyes. What I didn't know was that this conversation wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of my fight. They thought I would just cry and accept it. They couldn't have been more wrong. 2 days later, the air in the wedding planner Kayla Monroe's office felt thin and cold, despite the sun streaming through the windows. I had arrived with my shoulders back and my best dress on, the pearls my late husband gave me resting on my neck. If I was going to be treated like an intruder, I would at least look like I owned the place. Lauren was already there, flipping through a catalog with an air of boredom, the diamond on her finger sparkling like a trophy. Beside her, her mother, Brianna, looked me up and down with a polished smile that didn't reach her eyes. It was the look of someone who measures the value of everything and everyone, and I felt clearly that to her, I was worthless. Vivian, glad you could make it, Lauren said without even looking up. The contempt in her voice was palpable. I sat down, smoothing my skirt with deliberate calm. Please, call me Vivian, I replied, with the sweetest, most dangerous smile. a Southern woman can muster when she's about to go to war. The conversation began with trivialities, color palettes, flower arrangements. Kayla, the planner, tried to maintain a professional tone, but the tension was almost visible. Then I got to the point. I was thinking, I began, placing my hands on the polished oak table. Since the Gadsden house is so spacious, it would be a wonderful opportunity for a true family celebration. My relatives, about 30 people, would add such a warm touch. Lauren snapped the catalog shut. The sound echoed in the silent room. She stared at me, and for the first time, I saw the coldness in her young eyes. Actually, Vivian, we've decided it will be just my family. My parents are covering the catering, the music, and the decorations. So, the decision is ours. Brianna added with a tone of false superiority, "It will be an intimate, tasteful event, dear. Simplicity is elegance. Don't you agree?" The humiliation burned my face, but I kept my voice steady and sweet as honey. Elegance, Brianna, is when everyone feels welcome. At least that's how I was raised. Lauren's smile became a thin, cruel line. Well, this time, it's our understanding that matters. If this story has touched you so far, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the rest. The silence that followed was deafening. Kayla shuffled her papers, clearly uncomfortable. I looked from mother to daughter and saw two generals planning a campaign where I was the enemy to be eliminated. I swallowed the bitterness. Southern women don't scream. They don't make a scene. We watch, we calculate, and at the right moment, we act. It was then that, perhaps trying to break the ice, Kayla said something that completely changed the game. "Of course, Mrs. Chandler, since you paid the deposit, the contract is actually in your name. Nothing can be finalized without your approval." The words came out as a mere technicality, but to me they sounded like a clap of thunder. I kept my face impassive, as if I already knew, but inside, a new strength surged. The ground, which had felt like quicksand beneath my feet, suddenly became solid rock. They could discard me, but they had forgotten one small detail. Whoever signs the check calls the shots. The meeting continued, but I barely heard it. My mind was racing, processing this new information. They saw me as an ATM, a decorative and outdated figure. They didn't realize that by giving me the responsibility of the initial payment, they had handed me all the power. At the end, Brianna offered me her hand, a victorious smile on her face. Lauren didn't even look at me. I smiled too, but my smile was different. It was the smile of someone holding all the cards, who knows the game is about to turn. As I walked out into the bright Charleston sun, the weight of humiliation was already beginning to transform into something much more dangerous. Determination. The war wasn't lost. In fact, it was just beginning. As soon as I got home, the calm I had displayed in public gave way to an icy precision. The contract lay on my kitchen table, its crisp black letters almost mocking the way I had been treated. But now, they were my armor. I read the most important clause again and again, as if to make sure it wasn't a dream. Contract holder Vivian Chandler. My name, not Lauren's, not Brianna's, mine. Every obligation, every right, every ounce of power over that event was legally tied to me. They had made a fatal mistake. They confused my kindness for weakness and my money for a blank check. They forgot that whoever holds the pen writes the story. I picked up the phone and dialed Kayla Monroe's number. My hand no longer trembled. Her voice sounded professional as always. "Mrs. Chandler, good afternoon. How can I help you?" I kept my tone polite, using that southern sweetness that can hide the force of a hurricane. "Kayla, dear, I need to make a few adjustments to the booking. Please, from now on, freeze all contracts with vendors. The caterer, the florist, the invitations. Nothing moves forward until I give the final order." There was a pause on the line, the sound of papers shuffling. "Of course, Mrs. Chandler, may I ask why?" I smiled into the emptiness of my kitchen. "It's just a matter of clarity to ensure everything turns out perfectly. Oh, and one more thing," I added casually. "Please update the name of the reservation. From now on, it should be listed as the Chandler Family Event. Yes, make that official." Her hesitation lasted only a second. "Understood." I'll make the changes immediately." After hanging up, a strange calm washed over me. It wasn't the euphoria of victory, but the certainty of someone who has retaken control of their own destiny. The first piece on the board had been moved. Of course, it didn't take long for the hornet's nest to be stirred. That night, the phone rang. It was Eric. His voice was tense, charged with the nervous energy of a man caught between two fires. "Mom, Lauren just called me. The planner said things are on hold. Did you change something?" I answered in a measured way, without anger, just the firmness of a rock. "I simply paused the process, Eric, until certain matters are clarified." I heard a groan on the other end of the line, a mix of frustration and pleading. "Mom, please, don't make this harder. Lauren has a vision for the wedding. She's worked so hard on this." The patience I had been holding on to ran out. "She can have any vision she wants." I cut in, my voice still soft, but with a layer of steel beneath it. "But Eric, this isn't just her wedding, it's your wedding, it's our family's wedding. And if my family isn't welcome, then no one is setting foot in that venue." The silence that followed was so sharp, it could cut glass. I knew my words had hit him because I heard his long exhale. "Mom, please, can't you just let Lauren handle this? She wants everything to be perfect." I closed my eyes, the pain of those words hitting me full force. He was asking me to back down, to erase myself, to accept humiliation for the sake of a perfection that didn't include me. "No, dear," I said, my voice now dangerously calm. "Perfection doesn't mean erasing the people who love you, and I will not sign a check to finance the disappearance of our own family." He mumbled something about calling me back later, and hung up hastily, no doubt rushing to calm his furious fiancée. I didn't cry. Instead, I went out to the porch, the Charleston sky painted in shades of gold and crimson. They thought I would cave. They thought I would write checks and smile politely while being swept under the rug, but they didn't really know me. The paper in my kitchen had my name on it, and with it, my power. And as that sunset painted fire on the horizon, I promised myself the game was just beginning. Eric's invitation to dinner sounded like a white flag, but I knew it was a trap. Still, I went. We met at one of Charleston's most exclusive restaurants, where the soft glow of candles danced on crystal glasses, and the murmur of wealthy conversations filled the air. I wore a navy blue silk dress and my pearls. If I was being brought to a tribunal, my dignity would be my only defense witness. Eric stood when I arrived, his face tense. Lauren offered me a cold smile that didn't touch her eyes, while Brianna, on her pedestal of elegance, merely inclined her head, like a queen granting an audience to a commoner. The tension at the table was so thick you could cut it with the silver knives. Brianna began, her voice as smooth as poison in a wine glass. "Vivian, Charleston is such a charming place. So quaint. I imagine your relatives find it all positively dazzling." The way she said relatives made it sound like she was talking about a plague of locusts. I smiled, unshaken. "They've always loved the city. Our family has deep roots in this soil for generations." Lauren then leaned forward, her eyes glinting with malice. "That's cute, but for the kind of wedding we're planning, it might be a bit overwhelming for them. We want to maintain a refined standard, you understand?" Refined. I understood perfectly. It was a pretty word for exclusive, a pretty word for cruel. I set my glass down with deliberate care. "My dear, family gatherings are never messy when they're built on love. 30 more people won't spoil the refinement. They will only add joy." Lauren's smile sharpened like broken glass. "Eric and I have already discussed this. My family is paying for everything else. The catering, the flowers, the band. Honestly, it only seems fair that the final decision is ours." And then she delivered the blow that broke my heart. "In fact, Eric is very lucky, marrying into a family that can give him all of this." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Lucky. As if my son, my blood, was a charity project they had rescued from poverty. As if the 20 years I spent raising him alone, every sacrifice I made, meant absolutely nothing next to the shine of their money. Brianna laughed, a light, cruel sound. Yes, dear, it's a great blessing. Your son should be grateful. I felt my chest tighten, but I wouldn't give them the pleasure of seeing me fall apart. I leaned back in my chair, my posture impeccable. Gratitude is a beautiful virtue, I replied, my voice firm. But I taught my son that gratitude must always go hand in hand with respect. Both families deserve that. It was then that all eyes turned to Eric, the moment of truth. Was he my son, or was he a pawn in their game? I saw the conflict on his face, the agony of being caught in the crossfire. He looked at me, the plea in his eyes begging me to give in, and then he gave in. "Mom," he said, his voice low, almost inaudible. "Please, don't make things harder. Lauren is right. They're doing so much for us. Maybe we should just let her handle everything." The betrayal was so complete, so absolute, that for a moment the air was knocked out of me. The sound of his fork tapping nervously against his plate was the only thing I heard. My son, the boy to whom I was the entire world, had just sold me out for a refined wedding. A slow, empty smile formed on my lips. "Of course, Eric, you must do what you think is best." The pain inside me was an ocean, but my voice did not waver. When the dessert menus arrived, I stood up with all the grace I could muster. "Forgive me, it's been a long day. I'll let you enjoy your evening." I felt their eyes on my back as I walked away, but I didn't look back. That night, under the gaslights of Charleston, my heart was in pieces, but my determination had turned to pure steel. They hadn't just disrespected me. They had underestimated me, and that would be the last time. The morning of the final meeting arrived with a clear, cloudless sky, an ironic contrast to the storm that was about to break. We met again in Kayla's office, the same stage of my previous humiliation. But this time, I wasn't a pleading victim. I was the owner of the theater. Lauren and Brianna were already there, exuding an arrogant impatience. Eric stood by the window looking like a ghost. Brianna got straight to the point, her voice cold as steel. "Vivian, I hope you've reconsidered this foolishness. We need to move forward with the plans." I smiled softly and placed my handbag on the table. "I have considered everything, Brianna, and I've come to a very simple conclusion." I paused, looking her directly in the eye. "Without me, there is no venue, no vendors, no wedding." The silence that followed was heavy and absolute. Lauren's face turned red with anger. "You can't! You wouldn't dare sabotage my wedding!" Her voice was a high-pitched shriek. "Sabotage?" I replied calmly. "No, my dear. I am simply reclaiming the respect that is owed to my family, the more than 30 relatives you so easily forgot." It was then that Eric, who had remained silent until now, took a step forward. His voice, once uncertain, was now firm. "My mother is right." Lauren spun around to face him, her eyes wide with shock. "Eric?" He shook his head, his gaze steady and clear for the first time in weeks. "This is supposed to be about two families coming together, not one erasing the other." I let myself get carried away. I stayed quiet when I shouldn't have. But it's over. If my mother's family isn't included, then this wedding isn't what it's supposed to be. What Lauren and Brianna didn't know was that the night before, fate had intervened. Eric, racked with guilt, was at a downtown bar when Lauren walked in with her bridesmaids, not seeing him in a dark corner. He heard her laughing, her voice loud and cruel. "It will be perfect," she said. "Eric's family won't be there. No embarrassing rednecks to ruin the pictures, just us, just class." Those words were the cold shock of water he needed to wake up from her spell. The woman he thought he loved was, in fact, an architect of cruelty. With Eric's newfound support, my position was unshakable. Lauren and Brianna were trapped. Their dream of a high society wedding was one step away from going up in smoke and public humiliation. The fury in their faces gave way to a bitter defeat. "Fine," Lauren hissed, her jaw clenched. 50% for each side, but only because we don't have time to start from scratch. I inclined my head. "That works. And one more thing. At the reception, there will be a toast, acknowledging both families, publicly, equally. That condition is non-negotiable." They couldn't refuse. The war was over. On the wedding day, the Gadsden house was stunning. But beneath the glow of the candles and the scent of magnolias, the tension lingered. The two families occupied opposite sides of the room, a reflection of the silent battle we had fought. When it was time for the toasts, I stood up. The room fell silent. "My dear friends, my beloved family," I began, my voice warm and clear. What a joy to see us all gathered. Not as two halves, but as one whole. I let my eyes scan the room. It's true there was a moment when it seemed some might be left behind, but love has a way of correcting its course. Love remembers. Love insists on inclusion. And so here we are, every seat filled, every heart present. A murmur went through the crowd. Lauren and Brianna's relatives looked uncomfortable, while the Chandlers raised their glasses, pride shining on their faces. I raised my glass higher. To family, all of it. May this union remind us that wealth fades and beauty transforms, but loyalty endures. As I sat down, Eric stood up. His eyes met mine, and then he turned to the guests. "I want to thank my mother," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "She gave me more than life. She gave me values, and I want everyone to know that I'm proud to be her son, proud to have both our families here, and proud to start this marriage with honesty and balance." He raised his glass to me. In that moment, I saw the man I had raised. Lauren's smile was as thin as glass. Brianna looked away, but I, surrounded by the warmth of my family, allowed myself a small smile. Dignity had been restored, the balance reclaimed. The night finally was mine. Vivian's story teaches us that dignity is priceless, and that true strength is often revealed in silence. If you believe that respect for family comes first, leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more moving stories like this one. Comment below what city you're watching from. We love to know how far our stories reach. Don't forget to hit the bell to be the first to know when a new video is released, and explore our